The following podcast is brought to you on behalf of the Saracen Supporters Association and is not an official product of Saracens Limited. Content provided voluntarily by our guests and contributors are of their own opinion, which may change over time and should not be taken as fact, particularly as the podcast hosts are regularly talking drivel anyway. If you've got some drivel of your own you'd like to share, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at fezcast_SSA. You can search Facebook for the Fezcast, or you can email fezcast.ssa@outlook.com.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, welcome everybody to Tuesday's edition of this week's Fezcast, and I'm all over the place. But Barry's joined me because I've done an interview with Kelly Brown that we need to play in. But yeah, Barry, if you're okay, we'll play the interview in now, and then we'll have a discussion about Kelly, because obviously, me being the super scoop journalist that I am, I was not made aware that by the time the interview went out, that Kelly would have announced his departure from the club. So we'll have a listen to what Kelly's got to say about everything else apart from his departure from the club. And then we'll have a chat about Kelly himself and pay tribute to him as he announces his second departure. So let's play that in now.
You're listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracen Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome to the podcast for a hat-trick of appearances now. The first player, coach, and whoever to make a hat-trick. Welcome to the podcast, Kelly. Do you ever score a hat-trick in your career, Kelly?
I scored 2 for Scotland Sevens. It was in the big game. So we played one against the Israelis and one against Azerbaijan. That's a true story. That's the only two I ever scored. But they still count.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Hat trick.
Well, indeed. Well, you could add the hat trick of appearances on the Fezcast to that. So, I suppose the first thing to say, though, Kelly, is congratulations to yourself and the club, the players, the coaches, and everybody on a victory in the semi-final. I expect it feels good to be back at Twickenham again in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yes, great. The season has gone well. We finished at the top of the table, but we are acutely aware, you don't actually win anything if you finish there. And the semi-finals, always a tricky one. No one wants to lose in a semi-final. If you lose there, you don't even get to the big dance. And so, I thought on Saturday, I thought the boys were outstanding. I think especially in defence, I think we're at a level that we've not actually been at, for quite a while. And it was great to see. In saying that, there's a lot of things, even in spite of that, we've been over the game. There's a lot of things that we can improve on. And now we're just excited for the final.
Well, absolutely. I suppose the first question is, we're recording this on the Wednesday before the week before, because we're doing a bit of work on making some shows for the week of the final. But, our Fezcast went out this morning reviewing the semi-final. The one thing I was going to ask, did the game go as expected? Because I felt Saints, and if we concentrate on the opposition quickly, I think they forgot what they were good at this season, and kind of played into our hands a little bit. But then we, as a team, just stepped up and said, Saints, instead of throwing the ball around in the backs like they've done so well this year, took us on up front. And honestly, it was at points, it seemed almost men against boys. It wasn't, but the amount of turnovers. I mean, Fast got 4 turnovers himself, didn't he? I think Ben Earl was turning over for fun, Marrow as well. It was just immense, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think it was me. I don't think the Saints actually changed the plan. I think our coaches. So I think Ian Peel around the line actually changed the line-out plan to what Saints would have seen in the past. So we changed that, so we made it difficult for them. And so the sort of ball, they were expecting to get, they weren't actually getting. And alongside that, Adam Powell, I think, did a fantastic job in terms of the defensive plan of the set-piece plays, because the Saints' backs on the set-piece, the starter plays, are incredibly dangerous. But Powell, he put in a load of work, and the backs were so well drilled, and they sort of knew the sort of plays that Saints were going to run. And against them, if you do that, if you stop and slow them down on the first 2 or 3 of the phases, in general, you're okay, and you're in control. And we managed to do that.
Yeah, I absolutely. I thought that was you're absolutely right. I mean, myself, my personal coaching ethos almost is like the best form of defence is attack, and I think Saracens epitomised that on the weekend. Quick question for you: how much? What was we're being said on the bench at the point when Sean went up for the challenge with George early doors, where we all sat there thinking, "Oh my God, this is changing everything." And how did we feel when no card was given there?
It was a weird one. It was just a very strange sort of situation. I think he just timed it a bit wrong and got it a bit wrong. Was it a card? It certainly wasn't a red card. Like, so no way. I don't even think it was a yellow. Like, to be honest, I think he just got it a little bit wrong. And the guy that he hit, he was fine. He stayed down for a while, but he got up, he was fine, and he carried on. So at the time, as we actually didn't even think it was a big deal. It wasn't until after the game, when there seemed to be a bit of an outcry about it, that we even really thought about it. We didn't think it was a big deal at the time.
Probably made worse the fact that Sean then went off and scored 2 tries as well, and celebrating him signing a new contract, along with Goody and the other member of the Dad's Army, as we've now called it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's always it's sport. It's got a funny way of showing that if there is a situation like that sort of thing happens, it tends to be sort of that player who then goes on and either scores all the points or has a great game, and that's how it turned out. But Sean has been all season. He's been great, and he's getting on a little bit. He seems to be improving, and he seems to be getting even better, and that's a testament to him and to the work he puts in.
Well, absolutely, and we discussed that, as I say, this week's postcard. How are the bodies after the game? How are the lads? I mean, we saw Nick Ezekwe failed his HIA on the game and had to come off, but any concerns at the moment that you don't let us into anything that you wouldn't let out there in the greater world? But everything all good. Lads recovering well.
Everything's okay. So Nick, as you said, he failed his HIA, but he's got time, so he's going through the protocols, to try and get back. Apart from that, a few boys have got sort of bumps and bruises, but in general, we've got through it okay, I think. And there's also a chance that we might have 1 or 2 other players back in time for the final. I'm not saying who, but there's a chance, that some guys, they might also be available. So I think all in all, we've got a few injuries, but in general, I think we're in okay shape after a long season.
Well, absolutely. Well, we're looking forward to that. I mean, and what is, as I say, we're talking on the Wednesday before the weekend, before the week of the final. So 10 days out sort of thing. What is the emphasis with the coaching? I mean, is it all recovery? You're going to be looking at Sale, your opponents, and working out what you're going to do. But, are you giving the lads a little bit of time for a bit of rest and recuperation and just and then come back next week or this week as we go out, as it were, and really focus on the final then?
So far, it's been pretty light. And so the players were off on Sunday, off on Monday. We then trained on Tuesday, but it was sort of fairly light. And then a day off today, and then we train tomorrow and Friday. And so far, it's been pretty light, really. It's a balance, though, because we want to get the guys as fresh as we can. It was a hell of a battle. I think over the course of the game, I think we made 250 tackles. It's the highest over the whole of the season. So it's a tough old game, that. And so the guys have had a bit of time to freshen up. But as we go into the tail end of the week, we will be getting the plan in place, and I dare say, Friday is going to be a tough day because we've got to keep on going and keep on building from that side as well.
Well, absolutely. Well, perhaps we'll move on and have a chat about the final, in particular our opponents, Sale Sharks, their first final for 17 years. The obvious thing that is going to be billed as, isn't it? It's master versus apprentice, isn't it? Mark McCall versus Alex Sanderson, a man that you know well, Mark knows well, we all know very well. And we are really, really glad to see, putting away our tribal loyalties, glad to see Alex making a success as a DOR. And also, I suppose it's really gratifying to see, from our point of view, that two of the three other DORs in the semi-finals have come through the Saracens' way, which is just great. Proves what we're doing at our club is the best way.
Well, we're obviously biased. But I think the way we do things, is pretty good. It's pretty special. In terms of it's great to see Al doing so well. And in fact, if he would like to be the runner-up, every season from now, for the next 5 or 10 years, okay, that's completely fine. I would love to see that, as long as we win every time.
Well, absolutely. But as I say, we know Alex very well. What are you, as a club, as the coaching team? You're sitting down, you're having the chats now, having a coffee in the morning. What are you expecting from Sale in that final? What sort of performance do you think they're going to bring, and what sort of game plan do you think they're going to bring?
If you look at Sale, they've got a lot of big men. They're very, very physical. Their defence is the best defence in the league. It's conceded the fewest points. You've got George Ford at 10, who controls things. He sticks up these spiral bombs. It seems to be the big thing now. He puts up a spiral bomb. It goes up. It gets some snow on it, and then it comes spinning down to ground, and it's incredibly difficult to catch. So you put all of those things together, and then, as we saw on Sunday in the semi-final, they're pretty dangerous in attack as well. So we'll need to be at our best to beat them. With no doubt about that. And they finished second in the table, and so in a lot of ways, it's good that the top two sides have got into the final. I'm looking forward to the challenge, but it's going to be a war out there. It's going to be incredibly tough, but we're excited about it.
Well, yeah, we are as well. But how does the preparation differ for a big game like this, for a big final, to a normal league? So, you play Sale away, home and away. How does it differ when it's this one-off game, winner takes all situation?
It doesn't really, to be honest, as we tend to prep for every game exactly the same. The only changes here is we've got 2 weeks sort of building into it. And so we'll start to get a bit of the plan into the boys at the tail end of this week, as opposed to at the start of next week. So when we come into next week, around a lot of the areas of the game, we should be in a pretty good place. So a lot of the detail we'll have done is because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get as much of the detail in at the start of the week as you can. So it becomes sort of second nature. And then at the end of the week, if you know it, it just frees you up to go out there and fire in and play. And so it'll be the same as we've tried to do over the whole of the season.
A question came via our WhatsApp group. We have a little WhatsApp group between all of us who present on the Fezcast. Barry, who's one of our presenters, ask a question about experienced players and younger players. And Saracens this year have got a number of experienced players. I mean, Goody's knocking on 50 knockout games alone, isn't he, for the club, let alone performances full off. Jackson Ray's there, 300 odd games, his last ever game, walking out. Faz has got more experience than anybody else. How much of a lead do the experienced players take with the younger players coming through and perhaps less experienced players, the players who haven't been there?
Yeah, they definitely do. Like, it's brilliant if the young guys, they can look over and see the experienced players and they know, they've been there, done it, and they've won it before. It's a balance. I think over the course of the season, I think what's been great is we've got a lot of these experienced players, but even the guys that are maybe slightly younger, and less experienced have actually started to play a lot of games now. So even like if you look at, say, like a Nick Ezekwe, or a Callum Hunter-Hill, these guys have played a lot of games for Sarries now, like a lot of games. So you'd probably see them as being a bit younger and a little bit sort of less experienced. But I think that Smalley and Phil have done a brilliant job in terms of balancing sides out. And so there's a mixture of experience and the young players coming through. And it's exciting because it's about the final a week on Saturday, but also about sort of looking ahead into next season and the seasons ahead.
Now, the last question about the final is, how much does last year's final play a part in what we're going to do in this year's final? I mean, we've seen Faz this week. He was interviewed after the game on the weekend, and he was very keen to talk about how well Saracens have developed, but how we've played great rugby in the past, which we perhaps haven't been given the credit for. And then, but last year's final, everybody's come out and said it, that we didn't put on the best show that we possibly could do. Yeah. Is that being mentioned in the build-up, or is that's just gone now? It's there, it happened. This is what our focus is now. It's just ahead of us.
I don't think we'll speak about it. We've spoken about it. We've spoken about it already. Everyone knows, we didn't play our best in the final last time, but also that's sort of gone, and so we're focusing on the build-ups, as I said, so getting all of the detail in, and so we can free ourselves up, just to fire into this next one. And the other thing that Faz actually straight after the game he spoke about, he said, let's enjoy this 2 weeks, is because we've been incredibly fortunate over the last 13, 14 years. We've had a lot of finals and a lot of semi-finals, a lot of knockout games, but it's not normal to get to these. And it's not normal, to be in these every single year. Mm. And so we've been fortunate, to get to do it over this time, but at times you can get a little bit sort of bogged down in the stress of it. And we've said, listen, let's just enjoy it. And we've worked hard all season, we're ready. We'll have a good plan. Okay, let's go out there and just enjoy the occasion. And if we do that, we'll be all right.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, we're fully confident as fans, sort of. You can never tell, can you? There will be butterflies. But finally, just wanted to ask you, and let's go back and look at the season and ask you for some personal insights and perhaps firstly, I just wanted to highlight negatives. I mean, at the start of the season, obviously there would have been a discussion and I said, this is what we want to achieve this year. Is there any part of the season where where it's not quite gone to plan? I mean, I'm thinking probably Champions Cup and going to La Rochelle was it expected? I mean, we're trying to compete with mega bucks out there in France, and Mark made that comment immediately after the game. Leinster, Irish regions and French clubs have got a budget that we can only dream of. I mean, it's not necessarily fair. That game against La Rochelle, how has that defined the rest of the season, I suppose, is the question to ask.
I think we just view it as a missed opportunity, I think, because we didn't. And there's all this stuff about salary cap and budgets and stuff like this, but I think we didn't we also didn't play as well as we can on that day. And we knew against a very, very good side, against an enormous team and a physical team, is we knew that we had to be at our best if we were going to beat them. And unfortunately, it's for whatever reason, we weren't. But we'll keep on going, and we'll have another crack at the Champions Cup. But again, next year, I think we're still. It's a rugby. All you're trying to do each year really is to give yourself a chance to play in a knockout game, and if you get to that, it gives you a chance to win something. And that's what we're trying to do. And it's the same in the Premiership. It's the same in the Champions Cup. So yes, we were disappointed, but we've learned from it, and we know we can be better. And we certainly were against Saints, and I'm sure we will be, and the boys will be on it in the final against Sale, and then we'll go into next season and we'll try and win it all again.
Brilliant, absolutely. I mean, I do think that La Rochelle game is that Saracens made La Rochelle work harder for that victory than perhaps they have done in other games throughout the Champions Cup, which is great for us. But what's been your highlight of the season so far? I mean, obviously we're waiting for the big highlight when that cup gets lifted at Twickenham. But I mean, what's impressed you most this year? What's given you the greatest joy as a coach and a supporter of Saracens?
It definitely is the young players coming through. It's the young players sort of coming in and getting a chance. If you look at guys at the start of the season, so a bit older, but like Andy Christie, has come in, has done well, has really, sort of nailed himself on as a first team player now, and it's incredibly competitive in the back row. And then unfortunately, he's done his arm. And then after him, there's guys like Ollie Hartley came and did well. Theo Dan has come in and is flying into things. He's incredibly explosive and has sort of come from nowhere. Toby Knight also in the back row, a young player, who's got a big future. I'd say it's probably that thing that I enjoy most, because I know the sort of work that these guys have put in. Of course, the number of them, since they were sort of 15, 16. And so it's brilliant to see them, coming in and stepping up into the first team and not just playing, but making a difference.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that leads me nicely on to my last question for you. We are asking our listeners and pod followers to vote for their player of the season and their young player of the season and a kind of different other bits and pieces. We want to build our team of the year, as it were, as people do. Is there any players, though, that you think that should be on the list? And perhaps not necessarily ask you for a player of the season, because I don't think that's fair on you, but who are the players that have really improved and maybe even surprised you, have gone perhaps further than you expected in their development path already?
I think I don't think surprised me, because we know and we see them in training every week, and we know the standard and the caliber of the players. Ivan's been class. He's been brilliant, and I know Alan's had a few injury issues, but Ivan has, I think, just had a great year. He's voted the Players' Player of the Year, and I think he's been outstanding. There's been a number of other guys. Ben Earl's been great. Andy Christie, as I mentioned earlier, I think that he's been great. There's a number of other guys have been. Elliot Daly, up until he got injured, was on fire. But I think all in all, over the course of the season, I think that Ivan's been absolutely outstanding.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Kelly, because I've made the comment already that if anybody disagrees with me of Ivan being player of the year, I'll see him in the car park when my marathon legs keep working. We'll work it better. But yeah, Kelly, thank you ever so much for your time. Please pass on our regards to everybody at the club. And as I say, hopefully we'll be speaking to more people as well for this week's shows, as it were. But yeah, thank you very much for your time, and congratulations on a brilliant season, and congratulations
thank you
on all the hard work you've put in, and thank you again for being a hat-trick appearance on the Fezcast.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure, and thank you very much for having me on again.
Oh, our pleasure indeed. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Cheers.
is the Fezcast.
Hi, I'm Alex Lewington and I'm a Looseheads ambassador.
I'm Sydney Gregson and I'm a Looseheads ambassador.
Our aim is to tackle the stigma of mental health in rugby and society in general.
The Looseheads mission is to place a mental health lead at every rugby club. Get in touch now to find out more.
You can find us at Looseheads on all social media channels or at looseheads.co.uk.
Take care and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Enjoy the rest of the pod.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, yeah, Barry, fascinating stuff there from Kelly. I mean, as I said at the start, he's got his hat trick, which, as he also said in the interview, he hasn't done very often in the Sevens tournament once. But yeah, a hat trick of appearances on the Fezcast. Very illuminating way I had to say, as ever, honest, open, and very intelligently put everything to him, if not necessarily from me, obviously, you know. But yeah, I mean, really enjoyed that interview, Barry.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to get Kelly's input. It's good to get a coach's input, particularly in the build up to a big game like this, because the atmosphere and the work that they do must change such a lot between a regular game and a big one-off game like this. And yeah, as you say, great to get his input on that.
But again, as I said at the start of the show, like when I interviewed Joe Shaw the week before he announced as head coach and asked him about everybody else who was potentially going to be head coach and not him, because I'm an idiot like that. Within 2 days of me recording the interview, it all comes out on social media that Kelly is departing the club at the end of the season, moving on to pastures new, moving on to new challenges. But you know, he is a legend at the club, isn't he, Barry?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's been there as a player. He's been there as an academy coach. He's been there as a first team coach. Yeah, he's had 2 spells, and he'll be greatly missed and fondly remembered for all his times. And who knows? I mean, you can never rule out maybe there might be a 3rd spell there somewhere as well.
Another hat trick potentially in the making. But yeah, I mean, I also think from my point of view, having interviewed him now 3 times, given that the issues he has and the struggles he has, he is an immensely brave person for putting himself out there as well, knowing the difficulties he has overcome and continues to overcome as well. I mean, as brave a person, you know, brave is a word that is used far too often. And I've used it twice recently because obviously following the Rob Burrow Marathon, Rob and Kev Sinfield, 2 brave men as well. But Kelly, yeah, definitely, you know, it'd be very easy for him just to be in the background. But whenever we wanted a coach on to talk on the Fezcast, he stuck his hand in the air for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you say, the easiest thing would be to just sort of duck away from the media stuff. But I mean, he's done the live interview with the coach on BT several times at the beginning of this season, I think. And yeah, he's taken the decision that he's not going to let his speech impediment hold him back, and you know, hats off to the man.
Absolutely. Well, look, fascinating again. Really enjoyed that. Don't forget, look on the social medias tonight for what's coming up tomorrow. Got a good one for you, I hope. And yeah, we got 3 more of these to do. I think it is, Barry. I can't work it. I can't remember now. Whether this is the 2nd, 3rd, 17th or 24th. It could be any of them. But, you know, the excitement is building for the final, and really look forward to for the rest of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it Saturday yet?
Yep. I've got a beer on the go, so, you know, I'm getting in practice now for a few beers at Twickenham. Not at their prices. I'm taking my own and having them in the car park, I think. Anyway, thanks for that, Barry. And we'll catch you all later. Thanks, everybody, for listening in.
Cheers, everyone.
This is the Fezcast.